there's that iconic photo after the game where Campbell and Rhule are shaking hands, but Campbell's like looking away, won't look him in the eye.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt Rhule, listen, he's just a guy who oftentimes just talks too much. It's just who he's always been like this. This is not a always at Nebraska, we're going to make fun of Nebraska thing here. He always just gets kind of defensive and probably it's just who he is. Well, Iowa State now has 6 commits in its 2026 class that are from the state of Nebraska. Full disclosure, I don't believe Nebraska offered like all of these guys. This is not like straight up recruiting wins for, but one of these reporters over there's that photo. Great job, Matt. One of these reporters for the Omaha World Herald asked Rhule about Iowa State coming in and taking all of these Nebraska players.
I don't think he asked specifically about Iowa State.
He did, or you don't?
I don't think
No,
he did.
it was just
I'll let Matt say it.
It was a general in-state recruiting question.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, he was basically asking about bringing local guys into camp and how he kind of handles in-state recruits.
Let's
Want to
see
hear
what
the
Matt
clip?
Rhule. Yeah, let's see what Matt Rhule had to say.
I don't think there's anything wrong at the University of Nebraska that we carry ourselves like the top 20 teams in the program in the country. And the top 20 teams in the country, if they say, "Hey, we like you a lot, but we want you to come to camp," you'll come to camp, going into your senior year. So there's lots of kids. I would love to recruit them. They've committed to a Big 12 school or somewhere else like that. Come to camp. If you want to play in the Big 12 over the Big 10, oh, I got it. But make no mistake, there is a big difference. And Big 12 is going to go nuts now. I know that. And I'm going to be on X and all that stuff. But it's the reality. The Big 10 and the SEC, especially moving forward, are going to be here in terms of everybody else. So I have to worry about what's Ohio State doing, what's Michigan doing. So I love the state. I love the players. And we're gonna take a bunch. So we've taken some as walk-ons. We've taken some as scholarship players. I just have to be sure that they're good enough. And I don't think asking guys to come to camp is the whole thing like, hey, you should be the first offer at Nebraska. Desperate teams always set the market. Let me say that one more time. And rev share and all this, desperate teams set the market.
So there's a lot there. Part of me, it's like I see what he's doing, and I don't even disagree with it. The part where I would be concerned is Nebraska. Man, you haven't even taken the step to be Iowa or Wisconsin, and it's like this immediate comp. Like we need to be Ohio State and Michigan, and like forget about the Iowa State angle. I don't even care. Bloom and I talked about that a lot on our show last night on Cyclone Fanatic. Like I'm looking at this from a big picture Nebraska thing. And I feel like Rhule, because I liked the Rhule hire a lot for them because it felt like there was real substance there. Like a guy who has built a program, takes over Baylor after the Art Briles thing, builds it back up. He won at Temple, which is almost impossible to do. Right. It felt like there was substance there after the Scott Frost era where that felt like all flash to me that lacked any substance whatsoever. My fear here for them is that he's getting sucked back into this Nebraska fan thing of like, we just have to be where we were in the 90s, where they're nowhere close to it. They are nowhere close to that. And I would be a little bit alarmed by that. What do you think as an Iowa fan? When you
from a Nebraska angle, yeah, he probably went out there a little bit too far on the ledge, like saying that Nebraska is on the level of Ohio State. Now,
because you're not a top 20 team.
No,
like that's the thing.
You're right.
You may want to be.
You do need to worry about the Iowas and Wisconsins and even Minnesotas of the world more than Ohio State and Michigan, because you've got to get to those teams' levels before you can worry about the best of the best. But what he's saying is not wrong. I mean, there is a big difference between the Big 10 and the Big 12. There just is. And the gap is probably going to widen. And I don't like it, even as a Big 10 fan. I think it's bullshit. But that's the way this thing has been constructed. That's what's moving forward. The Big 10 is going to get a lot more money. They're going to have a lot more money to pay the players. And they're going to get a lot more spots in the college football playoff than the Big 12. And the Big 12 just doesn't have brands anymore. There isn't, like, the biggest brand is Colorado because of Coach Prime.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what he's saying is that he didn't mention Iowa State, but a team like Iowa State can go in and offer this kid as a freshman or sophomore and have much more of a relationship with him where they're trying to aim bigger. And they want these in-state kids to go to this camp so that they can watch them. I guess everybody's invited to this Nebraska camp, and if you go in, you start building a relationship, then you might get an offer, but you're going to get offers from Big 12, maybe ACC schools before you might get an offer from Nebraska, even though you're in state, because Nebraska feels like they can be more choosy. Unless you're a 5-star guy. And I think the message is a little bit, I think it should be lost on Nebraska fans, because this is a message that, unfortunately for them, they keep falling into this hole time and time again. But I guess what I was interested in is, like, the Iowa State angle. Why, like, what pissed Iowa State off about this recruitment? Like, why is Iowa State so upset about what he said?
I just think that I honestly think it's the Rhule thing. Like, there's a lot of history there. Like,
it's just personal?
I don't know. I truly don't know. I'm analyzing this more from a Nebraska standpoint. Like, and this is, I think it's really smart what Iowa State's doing. Like, they need to focus on high school prospects because they're never going to be able to win, like, big in the portal in football specifically. That's just the way. Now, this thing could develop.
They've got a lot of money, though. I mean, you think of all the money that Nebraska has now to.
No, I'm talking about Iowa State.
Okay.
I'm saying Iowa State football. I think this is really smart to just, they should be focusing
absolutely
on developing high school players.
Yeah.
And if you lose some, fine. But, like, it again, like, I think the perfect one, the perfect example is, like, Dominic Orange, right? Like, that guy could have gone off and made millions upon millions in the portal this offseason, but he stays at Iowa State, and I'm sure he's being compensated at Iowa State. Like, there's not burying my head in the sand, but because you've developed him, right? Like, so they've got to develop and do things a little differently, and that's the one advantage you have as a Big 12 program over the Big 10 right now, is you can go in and offer these kids early, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can do that, and but the problem is that Rhule just sounds condescending when he says that, and I think he kind of realizes that when you watch it. It comes off as condescending, even though what he's saying, this is Matt's problem. It's always been his problem. He talks faster than, right? This has always been his deal. But my issue, though, is, like, this guy really still, like, he's built these programs. I give him credit for what he did at Baylor. That was a really hard situation if you think back to that after the Bryles thing. He's built these, but he really hasn't done much. Flopped in the NFL. He hasn't beaten a ranked team since he was at Temple. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it really is just, like, it comes off to me. If I were a Nebraska fan, I would say, if you have, there's not great high school football in Nebraska, but if you have 10 D1 prospects that are, like, legit Power 4 guys, if you count the Big 12 as a Power 4, it doesn't sound like Matt Rhule does. Like, I would take 3 or 4 of them every year, no matter what, to be like your nucleus. Like, to me, like, that is important. But he's not looking at it that way. Clearly,
no, he's not.
He's like, we need to go off, and we are recruiting against Ohio State and Michigan and Alabama. That's how they want to do this. Shoot for the stars, buddy. Like, you have all the resources, you have a fan base, you have all that stuff. I've seen other coaches at Nebraska fall into this trap where you get so much pressure from this delusional fan base that constantly is longing for the 90s, and you ain't there, buddy. You went 6-6 last year or whatever they were. Like, you gotta take. This is a gradual build here. You're not Dion. Like it's not like what he did where because at that level you can go in and you can just flip it. You can't do that in the Big Ten. And I don't know. They could be good this year. I have no idea. Again, I thought at the time I thought Rhule would do well there. Still do. This is just like a little bit of like I don't know, man. You ain't there yet, brother.
He referenced some like the other coaches in a different part of that answer because I listened to some of it as well. And I think in his mind, he feels like he is going in a different direction than the other coaches. He said that some of the other coaches would take these to try to keep this a Nebraska thing. Well, this isn't about that. He said this is about winning. And if I bring in a bunch of Nebraska kids, yeah, that's great. But if you don't win, you're out. I'll be out just like all the other coaches were. So I believe he feels like he's going in a different direction and not falling into that trap as some of the other coaches have.